If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I have to give full credit for this story to the channel Run to Christ. I saw it on his channel first. He does an unbelievable job. One of the more underrated channels out there. Deserves more subs, deserves more credit. I will leave his channel linked up below. I definitely recommend you subscribe. As I constantly say on this channel, a lot of this stuff is done underground. Not just the child molestation, the rituals, all this stuff which people think doesn't go on because they think things like underground tunnels are a mystery, even though we have the Ozarks, we have the military, quote-unquote military base under the Denver airport. They tag these things with terms like military compounds, industrial compounds. It is an absolute joke. But now, apparently an ordinary rabbit's hole in a farmer's field has led to the discovery of an underground sanctuary once said to be used by the Knights Templar, a medieval religious order that fought in the Crusades. Now, for those of you that think that the Knights Templar was grandiose and wonderful and a good thing, it's another secret society. These guys are all connected with different titles. The Knights Templar worshipped the Baphomet. No different than what we see today. Okay, they worship the Baphomet. That is a fact, even though that the Masonic lodges will try to say, oh, no, they didn't worship the Baphomet. They did these worships in underneath churches, okay? They had little, altars underneath churches where they performed these satanic rituals. And this stuff still goes on today underneath churches, out in your woods, underneath caves. Now we have our own government. Oh, we've, completely doing this stuff, right? But right under our noses, literally in DuPont Circle and around the country, as they have underground quote-unquote highways that they don't tell anyone about, which continue to get discovered. And this is just another thing that God has shined his light on to expose, that somebody came across this underground. Now, for those of you that might want to defend it and say, well, the Knights Templar are just and they're great and they aren't corrupted. They weren't part of the secret societies, the mystery religion. They weren't studying any of this satanic stuff and worshiping the Baphomet. Let's start with the obvious here. The only reason anybody would do anything underground is why. What would the only answer be? If you didn't have any clue about any of this stuff and someone said, hey, listen, you'd say you had a daughter and you didn't want her to date some guy. And say they found him underground somewhere in a tunnel or in a cave. Wouldn't you go, well, they're going to the cave because they're trying to hide from everyone so they wouldn't see what they're doing because they're forbidden to date. Or if they smoked drugs or did, whatever they did. Why would you go underground and hide unless you were hiding something? So the Knights Templar were not going underneath in the middle of the woods creating these underground tunnels because they were playing Candyland with one another. They weren't going down there to set up an illegal casino underground where they were taking bets in Texas Hold'em. Okay? There's a reason that they have these caves, these tunnels, and all this stuff underground. Because what would happen if this stuff was happening in plain sight? What would happen if somebody went into their church and they saw these rituals? Or went into wherever? Say they walked into a Walmart and this was being performed. People would be in an uproar. They'd say, what are they doing? They'd look into it. They'd research it. They'd realize they've been duped. That's why this has been hidden for so long. And it's not just obviously the Knights Templar. It's all of these people I talk about and expose on this channel. The secret societies who use pedophilia, human and animal sacrifice, bestiality for their black mass rituals, dismemberment, rape, and cannibalism. So this is why they do this stuff underground. Not because the Knights Templar were saying, hey, we should go underground, because people are getting suspicious of our neighborhood tiddlywinks game, and we really want to keep it secret because too many people might join. I don't think so. So take a look at these creepy photos here. You can see these small holes, which almost look like rabbit holes. And this guy found them in his yard, which led to this underground discovery, which is absolutely frightening. This could be underneath anyone's house out there. You don't know. This could be out in your woods somewhere, covered up, just like they covered up McMartin, right? The tunnels underneath, like I talked about, they covered it up with dirt. It's a common theme that they do. The cave I talked about last week, where they found all these satanic symbols inside, They filled in the dirt holes. Looks like they forgot to fill in a dirt hole here. So let me read a little bit about this. The caves appear to be untouched structurally and date back 700 years. They are less than a meter below the surface. Michael Scott from Birmingham went to photograph the caves after seeing a video of them online. He said, I trapseed over to a field to find it, but if you didn't know it was there, you would just walk right past it. Considering how long it's been there, it's in amazing condition. It's like an underground temple. Exactly. That's what it is. That's what it is, photographer, Mr. Scott. It is an underground temple. And what do you think occurs in underground temples? It says the tunnel leads to a network of walkways and arches carved out of sandstone, as well as a font. So you could see these arches here. Very creepy stuff you'd see in a movie, right? Because they indoctrinate people with this stuff in movies. These look like the similar caves you'd see in a movie. And people would think that this was fiction or it was cool. They never think about what goes on in here and why somebody would need an underground temple and why they would build one and go to all this effort if they weren't seriously trying to hide something. You could see a lot of stuff written on the walls inside of here. I can't make out what any of it really says, but a lot of symbols. I'm sure a lot of these are satanic symbols that are used. You could see even one of the arches has the shape, goes up in the point in the shape of a pyramid. Mr. Scott said the cave was quite cramped, and those nearing 6 feet tall would have to bend down to fit in. Some chambers are so small that those exploring have to enter them on hands and knees. Well, I wonder what some of the smaller chambers could have been for then. If you had to enter on your hands and knees, they didn't want to just make it a little bit taller. Potentially, is that where, children were held or kept captive? Could that be possible? You tell me. I mean, if you're going to go to the effort of building a temple underground and building these caves and these structures, and you're going to make it 6 foot tall just so that you guys can fit in, why would you leave certain parts? You have to crawl on your hands and knees. And back then, they weren't wearing tank tops and shorts. They were wearing a lot more clothes than that. Mr. Scott said he had to crouch down, and once he was inside, it was completely silent. There were a few spiders in there, but that was it. It was rainy, so the slope down was quite sludgy, but inside, the cave was bone dry. The Templars were a Catholic military order founded in the 12th century to guard pilgrims on their way along the dangerous roads that led to Jerusalem. Its members were effectively armed monk-like knights who were granted certain legal privileges and whose status was backed by the church. They were reputed to be the possessors of great wealth and power. Do these sound like people who are following Jesus Christ's message? You see how they link this stuff and they say, well, the Templars were a Catholic military order. First of all, that's an oxymoron in its own, right? We know the Catholic Church and the Vatican and what they really stand for and represent, and now it's a cover and a front. We know about the Jesuits. We know about the Knights Templar. You should know, if you don't, that it was a front, that these people were not Christians. They were fronting for the church. And as it says, they were possessors of great wealth and power. In 1095, Pope Urban II promised the Knights of Europe forgiveness of their sins if they went on a crusade to win back Jerusalem for Christianity. So Pope Urban promised the Knights of Europe forgiveness of their sins, as if Pope Urban can actually forgive sins. Sorry, Pope Urban, you can't forgive sins. Only Jesus Christ can forgive sins, and salvation's only through Christ, not through you, Pope Urban. Okay? Many responded by taking the cross and showed this act by cutting out red crosses before sewing them into their tunics. These caves date back around 700 years. 1 year after Christmas, the labyrinth of intricately carved chambers was found to be filled with candles, sinister symbols scrawled on the walls, and more besides. So sinister symbols, that sounds like a good thing, right? But people don't care when they see stuff like this because they go, well, that was happening back then. Okay, they were doing that back then, but now we have the internet, we have TV, we have PlayStation, so people just moved on with the times, and they just decided, hey, instead of doing sacrifice rituals of animals and humans, let's just play Grand Theft Auto. Huh? I mean, that's how the common person thinks. That's why they don't think this stuff's going on. They go, oh, that was back then. They were a little bit weirder, different. They didn't have as much to do, really? I'm telling you, that's how people think when they see stuff like this. It says, the owners of the site, hidden in the dense woodlands 10 miles from Wolverhampton, decided enough was enough when two warlocks knocked on the door and asked for their robes back. The red-faced pair had left the garments behind after a ritual. Dominic Wass, an acclaimed urban artist who works under the name Sketch, once set up a workshop on the site. There's definitely some strange stuff gone on down there, he told the Sunday Mercury. It's surreal to have two warlocks knock on your door, but at least they asked. It's the mess left behind by the ones that don't. Some of the requests have been very weird. Accompanied by a Mercury photographer, our reporter entered the cramped tunnels to explore the secret world below. Our torches picked up pillars, hidden alcoves, and ritualistic symbols. Mystic sigils competed for crowded wall space with more modern scrawled messages written by youths who have turned the temple into a drinking den. Right, so apparently it's a drinking den now, but somebody came to their door asking for their robes back. I would have put those robes right in my fireplace, quick. And if a warlock came to my door, that'd be the last time he came knocking on any door, I'll tell you that. It goes on to say that, and yes, evil had been at work, but not with dustpan and brush. There were more snuffed out candles than you could wave a wand at. Spirits were present too. Empty bottles of booze littered the floor. Sketch, who was 25, scanned the cobweb, encrusted inner sanctum, and shook his head sadly. They've moved the sacrificial stone again, he groaned. Some people, why can't they just put things back where they are? Obviously, it's not something we want to be associated with, but in the past, if people have asked permission, explain what they wanted to do, and we were happy with it, and if they tidied up afterwards, but this was going too far. Time and again, wrote iron gates have been placed around this tiny entrance to the caves, only big enough to crawl through, but they have been ripped down within days. Nothing, it seems, will stop unwelcome intruders intent on hell raising. Sketch who has lived on the site for 2 years, admitted it's almost impossible to control. You can put up razor wire, but if someone gets injured, we're the ones who land in trouble. People don't seem to realize that this is private property and they're trespassing. It's a difficult one. Publicity just leads to more people trying to get into the caves. What do you think they're trying to go into the caves for? Today, why are people trying to get in there? Why are warlocks and witches and Satanists knocking on their door? Oh, they left their robes behind. What were they doing in there? Huh? They could put their robes on? They play Dungeons and Dragons down there? Is that what we're supposed to believe? Give me a break. I mean, really. News of the closure will be a hammer blow to the many polite pagans who ask permission to use the place. They're not the ones who cause trouble, apparently, but druids, white witches, wizards, and Satanists risk meeting their maker when attempting to enter the Caton complex. Dogs, including a very large mastiff, roam the grounds. There's also barbed wire and brambles to overcome. The caves themselves are hazardous. Some chambers are so tiny you have to enter through your hands and knees, like I said earlier. In 2009, a 16-year-old lost his life when a similar sandstone cave in nearby Bridgenorth collapsed. So why do you think people are going down in these caves? What are you hiding? What are you doing that you can't do in your own home? Well, obviously you can't hide in your own home anymore with the CIA. And in every country you can't hide in your own home because there's no privacy anymore. But what do you think they were doing down there? Like I said, I mean, come on. In another effort to keep unwelcome worshippers away, CCTV has been increased at Canton and more robust fencing erected. A walkway has been blocked off. Plans to fill in the caves, which are big enough to accommodate 10 people, have been considered but rejected. Well, of course they're going to reject it. The people in government and the township and all these committees are going to reject it, even though the trespassers on the property, because the people who are trespassing are probably people in their government, and probably people in their local town committees, and people of high esteem in the area. It's unbelievable. Yet still they come, ignoring the perils, to discover a site dubbed one of the most mystical in the Midlands. It ranks with Castle Ring, a public Stonehenge monument near Cannock Wood, which has become a hotspot for druids. Solstice and Halloween pose particular problems. Now, why do you think solstice and Halloween pose particular problems? I wonder why. Oh, because those are the days that the most sacrifices occur, where they do blood sacrifice rituals. I mean, how dumb are people? They talk about this stuff and they kind of humorize it and say, oh, some kids are drinking, they're getting robes on, they're crawling into these tunnels to do what? To do what in the tunnels? It's unbelievable. So this is a Knights Templar tunnel that has been discovered, which has been overrun with black magic cults. So black magic cults are showing up here and performing rituals inside this tunnel. They are not allowed to fill in the tunnel to stop it from happening. I wonder why. It is an absolute joke. Share this information with people. They need to know. Everybody should know this stuff is going on. And it's not a joke. And the Knight Templars, who are Baphomet worshippers, I can only imagine what's gone on in that tunnel over 700 years. I don't even want to imagine. I don't even want to. I thank you for listening to today's show. Again, the channel I found this on was Run to Christ. Check his channel out. I'll leave it linked below. God bless all of you and your families.